Welcome, everybody, to the Hero's Journey podcast, our way back to wholeness. This is a sacred space where you can kiss your doubt goodbye and embark with confidence and love on your quest to become the hero on your journey back to wholeness. Together with brilliant minds, we venture into the unknown to revive and mend what is torn and to patch what is missing. Today, we embark on a journey into the life of Punya, remarkable young woman that I have here, who took her healing into her own hands with determination and courage. Punya began her journey in 2019 after suffering from a concussion, which had her spiraling down with other health issues, digestive issues, hormonal imbalances, and more. And if I'm correctly, eventually diagnosed with conditions like Candida, SIBO, and just really spending the rest of 2019 trying to understand her diagnosis and just to get better. And despite these challenges, she decided to take on a natural path, which unfortunately has led her ending up with a very restrictive diet. And just when she thought nothing is really working for me, a friend of her introduced her to the work by Dr. Joe. And at this point, she was just willing to give it a try and to give it a shot, not necessarily being a huge fan before, maybe. She will tell us more about that. And she kind of discovered her limited beliefs she had about food and about her diagnoses, and just dismantling and overcoming them step by step. And today I've talked to her several times. She's just such an awesome young woman. I love what the whole wisdom that she has to tell, the nuggets, and I especially love how you just tackle limiting beliefs and just challenges in your life. You're so straightforward with it and you're so clear with the process. You also have the testimonial of yourself up it's up at the Dr. Joe YouTube channel, and when I heard it I was like, man, it was just so amazing to listen to it because you really took the viewer step by step through your process. And I hope that you can do that today again with us, so we get really all the nuggets that you have experienced and can share them with us. So welcome, Punya. I'm so happy to have you here. And I just want to hand over the question to, or like the microphone to you and just ask you, where do you think your story has started in all of this? Was it the concussion or was it earlier, or what do you think was your initiation into this work?
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here. I have been on a journey with the work. It started with, and we'll cover all of it today. It started with health, and that's the story I'll start with, and it has just totally transformed my life. I've been doing the work for about 5 years now. And the first year of my life was really healing, and the next 4 after that, was really just seeing where else the work could be applied in my life. And I'll talk about stories of abundance, creating love, money, opportunities, homes, cars, like all, an amazing life and more. So back to the start, my journey started in 2019. I had a concussion at the start of that year. I was, cleaning up one of my apartments that I was living in at the time, and I had a Christmas tree up in January from December the year before, and I was just cleaning up around it. My parents were about to come over, and as I came back up, I hit the back of my head against an island, a kitchen island, and underneath was concrete. And that, I felt like a big kind of ow, that hurt moment. And that started not immediately in that moment, but a week later, a concussion. I started having lots of symptoms of vertigo, dizziness. I couldn't really walk straight, couldn't really remember
Oh,
things. And so
wow.
so it had started, I didn't know what it was at the time. And a friend of mine, I was home alone, and I called him, and he's a good family friend of mine. And he took me to the ER, and over there they ended up diagnosing it as a concussion. And For the next six weeks or so, I kind of was locked up in a dark room because seeing any sort of light, window, sunlight,
Mhm.
lights at home would really send me off into a vertigo and would create symptoms for me again. So those 6 weeks were very challenging, to really just be in a room by yourself. I had family and friends taking care of me, dropping off meals at the time. And so I around week 6 or so, it started to get better. That's what doctors say. You just need lots of rest when you have a concussion, and it will eventually get better. Um, and so about 6 to 8 weeks later, I some of the symptoms started to go away, but I noticed very quickly that I started to have digestive issues. So I would drink, a smoothie in the morning for breakfast every day, the same exact ingredients, and I started to have reactions to that. My stomach would bloat up, and I looked like I was 9 months pregnant. I would, I would have a lot of symptoms. I would get anxiety. I would feel like my stomach was hurting a lot. And I didn't really know what was going on at the time. I thought maybe it was just something that would go away, and it started to get worse throughout the year of 2019. So I started to see Western doctors, went to a lot of different appointments. My parents had friends who were doctors that I also consulted with, and it was just diagnoses that were kind of all over the place. And a lot of them wanted very intense procedures where, they would sedate you and then put a tube into your intestinal lining to see what was going on. But there were lots of risks with procedures like that. And I just didn't really feel very comfortable to do that. So I started to turn towards alternative medicine for answers, functional medicine doctors, naturopaths, acupuncturists. I was, doing everything that I could at the time because I really wanted to get better. And I had seen functional medicine doctors. They did a lot of different tests. My diagnoses came that way, that I had small intestinal bacteria in my intestine, SIBO. I had Candida, which is a specific bacteria that gets overgrown in your stomach. I had adrenal disorders. My hormones were all over the place. I had leaky gut. There was just a list of diagnoses that these papers had. Those are some of the ones that I remember. And, I tried a lot of different diets that they recommended based on the diagnoses. I had tried, paleo diets. I had tried keto diets. I had tried elimination diets. I had tried every single diet you could probably think of. And neither of them were working. And the diets just got more and more restrictive as the year went on, until I was on a soup only diet. It was making my own homemade bone broth, and I had to buy bones from a specific butcher, meat from a specific butcher, grass finished, grass fed, organic, like the best quality that you can get. And I made my own homemade bone broth. It was a lot of work, so I ended up hiring a nutritionist slash chef. She would come to my house once a week, and she would make everything for me to make it easier. And that went on for a while, and it was kind of managing the symptoms, not really. And she was a blessing in disguise that came across to me. She had been to a Dr. Joe Advanced week-long workshop, and she would tell me about his work and would sometimes play it, and I didn't really quite understand it. And her personality she was a bit of a hippie, to me at the
Mhm.
time. So I thought she was a little woo woo, and I thought she was a little cuckoo and crazy with some of the claims that she would make about Dr. Joe's work, and people walking off wheelchairs, healing in 7 days, and she told me that his progressive workshop would really help me, and I just was like, this lady is nuts. Like, I'm not going to listen to her. I was very resistant for a while, until the end of the year. I was on birth control at the time, and I had gotten off, according to the doctor I was working with, and it kind of set my hormones in a frenzy. I was feeling crazy, anxious, all these things that I kind of had
Yeah.
under control, or so I thought, on the diet started to come up. And in a state of panic, I was really desperate for something to work for me and to really move the needle forward in terms of progress and healing. And so it was right around the time of Thanksgiving, November 2019, that I bought Dr. Joe's progressive course. And I said, I'm going to, I've tried everything else. I've tried acupuncturists, functional medicine doctors, naturopaths, medical doctors. I've tried the x-rays, all the like different tests, stool tests, blood tests, everything. I'm like, I'm ready to try something that I guess is unconventional. And I spent my Christmas holiday that year just really, my Christmas, period, just really going deeper into his work and understanding it. And a lot of it resonated with me because a lot of his progressive is about people's healing and health. And so I really started to listen to the lectures every single day. Nothing else mattered to me, and so I would spend a few minutes a day listening. And then I started to get to the meditations, and I didn't really know how to do it, and I just said, I'm just going to give it my best shot. I started with the week 3, I think, is where he has his first meditation in the course. And I just kind of went from there, just going, week by week. And I think the biggest click that I had came to me in week 8, which today is one of my favorite lectures of Dr. Joe's. He talks about beliefs and perceptions. The way that he talked about beliefs, being these thoughts that we think about over and over again in our heads, and how that creates our reality outside of us, but also it entrains our biology and our cells based on the way that we're thinking, especially if they're repetitive thoughts, which are beliefs. I realized, I'm like, oh my gosh, I saw a flash before me of the whole year. And I said, I have given my power away and have accepted, believed, and surrendered to all of these diagnoses that I was given. You see somebody in a white coat, a doctor, and you think that they know better than you do because you're in a state of looking for answers, and you're very suggestible when you're in that state. And so whatever words come out of their mouth, you're willing to believe in that because you think that they have the answer. And so I realized in that moment, being very suggestible, seeing all these doctors looking for answers, that I had accepted these beliefs that were probably not helping me, and they were probably making my conditions worse. And so I started, at the end of that lecture, he tells the audience to get out a piece of paper and write down one belief or perception. And I went a step further. I said, I'm going to write out everything I can think of. So I wrote out as many beliefs as I could think of about my health, about my diagnoses. And on the other side of the paper, I started to write new beliefs that I wanted to believe, which was that I was healthy. My cells were filled with energy and vitality. I could eat whatever food I wanted. My body was always in a state of wholeness. That I was just really, I was living life normally again. And I started to do that week 8 beliefs and perceptions meditation every single day after I listened to the lecture. And I started to do that. That meditation has a long breath in it. I think it's about like 10 minutes. And I said, if the breath is pulling up emotions from the body, then I'm going to give it everything I got, because this is all I have left. I've tried everything else and I really want to heal. I was 22 or 21 at the time. And I said, I'm going to give it my all. So every morning, I would pull my perineum up and just go at the breath. And, even when Dr. Joe says, hold it at the top, and I wanted to quit, I was like, I'm not taking a breath. And I told my body that, you're going to sit here and you're going to hold until he says you can exhale. And that was the will and the intention I went into it with. And very quickly, I started to realize that, by changing my beliefs, when he would get to the part in the meditation where he says, now, what belief or perception do you want to, change about yourself? And I would think one of the ones on my piece of paper that I had written down. And then he says, now, do you still want to believe, accept, believe, surrender to this? I forget the exact words, and he says, make a decision with such a firm intention that signals your body, and I forget the exact words he says, but he says something like that. And I would scream the word no so loud in my head, when he's like, do you want to accept, believe, surrender to this? We're like, no. you know, with such an intensity though, behind it, because I realized what was standing between me and my healing was that belief. What was standing between me and my future at the time was that belief. And I would
Mm,
scream it in my head so loud, that word, with such a level of energy that my whole body would start shaking and trembling. And I realized that that is the willpower that you need to change that belief.
mm,
And then he would say, well, what new belief do you want to believe? And I would believe the belief that I had, the new one on the other side of the piece of paper. And I would just feel it, as much as I could. And if I felt like I couldn't feel it that much, then the next day I would show up, I would work on the same belief. And I would only cross it out on the piece of paper and go to the next one when I felt like, okay, yeah, I really feel like I changed that belief in my meditation. I feel like I made a decision with firm enough intention that I don't think that old thought anymore. And I did this, for a period of 2 or 3 weeks, sometimes twice a day, in the
mm-hmm,
morning and the evening. And I noticed very quickly within 3 weeks that I was having new beliefs, and as a result, my choices were that I was willing to try new foods. I was willing to
mm,
try to get off of a specific medication or pill that I was taking, or a supplement given to me by all these doctors. I was willing to skip, that week's acupuncture appointment or whatever appointment I had lined up, because I believed that I was starting to get healthy again. And then I started to do blessing of the energy centers as well, and I think that was another really powerful
mm,
for me. So I would alternate between doing beliefs and perceptions. I think I did that one probably 80% of the time, and then 20% of the time I would do the Botech series from the progressive workshops. Within a few weeks of doing it, I started to notice a difference in my state. I was more confident. I was happier. I did
mm-hmm,
have moments though when I would feel so much fear coming up in my body, and in those moments, I would excuse myself. If I was at work with family, I would go to the bathroom, and I would literally hear the old thought coming up in my head, and I would clench my fists, and I would just be like, no, like I would do the same thing I did in the meditation. Like, I'm not going there. I'm not having this thought. I'm not going to go to this emotion. Um, and at times I would cry. It was a very emotional
mm,
experience for me as well. Other times in the middle of the night, I also noticed, because Dr. Joe says your body will try to unseat you. And so sometimes in the middle of the night, I would be woken up by insane fears, like of me
mm,
dying or something, crazy happening. Like, just the body was addicted to the emotions, like Dr. Joe says, of survival. And I would sit up no matter whatever time I woke up in the middle of the night, and I would start doing the breath. And I was aware that these emotions were addictions that my body was trying to hold on to, because I would
yeah,
listen to Dr. Joe's lectures and I understood the what and the why, so that way in those dark nights of the soul moments, I knew what I needed to do. So I would do the
yeah,
breath, or sometimes I would put my hands over my heart, and I would just tell myself it's okay to let go of these old emotions. And sometimes I would cry, but I was healing in the process. And within 12 weeks of doing this, every day became in some ways easier, because I knew what programs to catch from the day before, and in other ways it felt harder because now there were new programs coming up that I was unaware
oh,
of. So it
yeah,
was, getting familiar, not reverting back to the old thoughts from the day before, but also catching the new ones when they came up. And some days I wouldn't catch them, but then the next day or the week after I would. And slowly I started to open up my diet. And sometimes when I felt fear, of eating a specific food, I would have the plate in front of me on the table, and I would
mm-hmm,
close my eyes, and I would feel the feelings of my future. I would feel the feelings of the new belief that I had told myself during the meditations when I was changing beliefs. And I would just picture, that person, that version of me that could eat all these foods. And I would do it for 5 minutes, sometimes 10 minutes was what it took to bring the emotion up. And as
mm,
soon as I felt the emotion, I would open my eyes and I would eat the meal in that state. If I was in a survival state, I would not eat the food until I could close my eyes and bring up the emotion. And then only when I felt it, I would eat the meal. My digestion was getting so much better. Um, all in all, within 12 weeks of doing this, everything
wow,
I felt better. And I knew in one of the meditations that I had, I think around week 11 or so, I just had a very profound meditation where I really had a powerful breath that morning. And I had a really big emotional release and I started crying, but I also had a sense of knowingness that I was healed. And I went in to see my doctor the next week. And before, I even went to see him, I was like, my values are going to come back totally fine. And I already know it. Like I was shown that in my meditation. And that's exactly what happened. My values were all good. And so, I went to I told myself when I started the work that when I heal, I'm going to go to my favorite pasta place. I love pasta. Italian food is favorite foods. And I said, I'm going to go to the, pasta place outside of San Francisco. I lived in California at the time, and I'm going to have a celebratory dinner there. And so I went there with a few friends at the time, and I felt fear right before I ate the meal because it was like gluten and dairy and all these things that I, couldn't have at the time. And I just did the same thing before I ate the meal. I closed my eyes. I would repeat the new beliefs to myself in my head and feel the feelings of my digestion is good. I've already digested this meal. Everything is good. And then I ate the meal and I just knew that I was good. And so for about a year after that, I just kept just doing the meditations and tried different meditations that I hadn't done. I bought some from his store and just I think I was in a maintenance state the rest of the year,
Ah,
2020, because if I didn't do my meditation, the fears would come back, and the fear
mm-hmm.
of being sick again. Like, is this a
Yeah.
uh, temporary healing, and then I'm going to revert back? So for me, my meditations were my medication. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know that I would not feel the fear anymore. And that was how the rest of 2020 went for me after the healing. I hadn't gone to a week long yet. This was during COVID. So for
Yeah.
me, 2020 was the best year, at that given time in my life, while everybody else was probably going through COVID, because I healed and I knew the power of my own power to be able to heal myself, especially as the pandemic was going around. And I felt like
Mm.
the blessing and the timing of all of that happening, especially with the pandemic, was so, beautiful for me because I had never gotten the vaccine. It wasn't something I was planning to do, especially after I had just healed myself. I'm like, I don't need anything outside of and so I hadn't gone to one of his week longs until a year later, in 2021, when he opened his first week long in Cancun, and that was a whole whirlwind in itself for me.
I can imagine. I love that you say that you were just in maintenance mode. I think what I've learned as well during this journey, no matter what you're creating, you really have to peel the onion, like just getting rid of layers of layers of layers of layers. And it's so interesting. I think you mentioned this also in your testimonial that is shown on his YouTube. What has happened during the Cancun retreat? You had some fears coming up again about getting sick again. I noticed that there's a fear that probably a lot of people carry around, like once they healed and they maybe might still be in the maintenance mode. Some people, they heal and they're like, boom, it's completely done, done, they're changed. And sometimes some people, everybody's journey is unique as well. Um, some more stuff comes up like, hey, look at this.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, how was it for you? Like, what came up during the retreat? Were you shocked, or like, not, maybe shocked is the wrong word, but were you surprised when there were more fears, or like new fears, or like old fears arising? How was that for you?
Yeah, I think even before Cancun, after my healing, sometimes I would just be in the kitchen, and like sometimes I'd open a cabinet and it might tap my head, like ever so slightly or something like silly, as you're just moving around, you're getting in and out of a car. So anytime my head would touch anything, I would feel the fear, and I would be like, oh my God, did I just create another concussion, um,
Yeah.
hitting my head coming up from cleaning the Christmas tree was how that happened for me the first time. And so well before Cancun, I was aware that every single moment, that I had touched anything on my head in the slightest way, that I felt the fear of getting sick again, of the concussion starting and the whole cycle repeating itself. And I would sit down and I would find the present moment, and I would work with my body, and I'd put my hands over my heart and just tell myself, like, you are good. Like, you are not going back there. Like, it's okay. And, I think that when I went to and I thought I was good, after a couple of those moments happened throughout the year and I worked with my body. And like Dr. Joe says, he says you have to be greater than your body, your environment, and time. And I thought I had done all of that. I thought I had mastered the work. And I think I was really humbled by the universe when I went to my first week long. Because, well, actually, I'll come back to this. I'll finish the healing story and then I'll kind of tie it back to Cancun. So I went to my first week long in January or February 2021. And I had been taken out of my environment. So I no longer had the kitchen, all the, nice oils and organic spices to cook with, and, all the like paleo, whatever stuff I was still kind of, some of it I carried over just because I thought it was healthy to eat. But I didn't have any of that. So when I went to Cancun, they have an amazing, buffet there, and it's like gluten and dairy and sweets and treats and everything you could, think of under the moon. And I was freaking out. I remember even leading up to the event, packing at home. I was a single person going to Cancun for like 7 days. I took two 50-pound suitcases with me, and I checked both in as bags. One of them had my clothes in it, and the other one had a bunch of disinfectants, Lysol sprays, gloves, masks, like for everything you could think of, because I was so scared that I was going to get COVID at the event, and COVID was still very much a real thing. And I had lived in a bubble of California at the time, and California was extremely in a fear-based mode around the pandemic. And so that was my environment, that I was used to. And so I was scared going out of the country. My parents were like, freaking me out a little bit too at the time. And so I took a whole suitcase with just COVID gear,
Oh
just in
my
case.
God.
And I remember I got there in the lobby and nobody was wearing a mask. I was the only one, and I was like freaking out. I was like, holy shit, what did I get myself into? I shouldn't be here. I'm going to get COVID. I'm going to get sick, but I was aware that all of this was coming up for me. The first day I sat at, they had mask only tables on the perimeter of the room, and I sat at one of those. And Dr. Joe started talking about emotional addictions and fear, and something clicked where I was like, I'm scared of getting sick again. Like, I brought a whole freaking other suitcase of stuff, right? Like, there's a fear here, and I said, I'm gonna go all in this week, and I'm gonna overcome whatever is still left. And that was my intention. So with the breath, every single meditation that we did that had a breath, I was going all in on it. And I think it was the second or the third day of the event that I had a meditation which was very profound for me. And in my testimonial, I shared that I felt like there was a crack happening in my body, and I reached up, even though I was sitting in the meditation, and I felt like I pulled this like skin suit, layer of the onion off, and I left it in my meditation spot, and I felt so much love, so much light. I felt like whatever fear I was carrying of getting sick again was in that skin suit, or that layer that I had just taken off. And as soon as I got up from my meditation spot, I didn't feel the fear. I threw away all the masks and as much of the gear that I brought with me. I was like, I don't need this. I started sitting, with everybody else, like away from the mask only section. And I was just like, I'm leaving this behind. This is not me. This is not who I am. And there was a very powerful liberation of energy in that meditation for me. And I think that a lot of I had multiple moments, I think especially the first 2 years where I thought, "Okay, I'm healed," right? Like, I had healed symptomatically from everything within, like, 12 or 13 weeks, but there were still lingering fears, and at every moment when I went to Cancun, I told myself, "Now I'm good. I had that amazing meditation," you know? And I think that there were multiple points for me where everywhere along the way I thought I was healed, and I was just healing another layer of fear. I was healing another layer
Mm,
deeper emotion that was still there from the trauma and the experience of, you know, the health issues. And I think it just eventually kind of started to go away, but it really showed me that healing is not linear. Like, you I will have
yeah.
moments, you know, that now not so much. It's been 5 years since the experience, but I used to have moments where months after, years after, like Cancun, that, you know, I would bump my head somewhere or just something silly would happen, you know, and I would just think the thought, you know, it wasn't as strong anymore, because I had done a lot of work around it, but it still came up every so often. So I would just really work with my body in those moments when it did happen, you know, to sit it down, to tame the animal, and to tell myself that my past is not my future because that's not who I am anymore.
Mm, wow. Takes a lot of willpower. Sometimes it's really like I love how you say this and that you screamed in your head like no, and just really work with your body because I think when you first get in, for me, when I first got into the work, it was beautiful. But when you hit the first layers of like real stored or addictive emotions that your body is addicted to, and like you said, you woke up in the middle of the night and you were full fear, like
Oh
full
yeah.
on. Your whole
Oh yeah.
body is on fire. It feels like your nervous system is on fire. And it takes quite a lot of, how to say, energy and awareness to just write that because consciously you cannot stop that. And then just really, I love that you said you excused yourself. I think this is so important and something that I kind of shelved away for when I first was confronted with so much fear because I thought as well I had to perform. I was in the middle of my last university year. After my first retreat, there was like stuff coming up, and I was like, this is not the best time right now. So
Yeah.
I did not take the time, not necessarily as much as I would have needed in those moments to really just sit with it. So I want to take this time right now to encourage people, really excuse yourself, like go to the toilet or just go outside for a moment. The amount that people spend during work on their phones or talking to other people, you can you can take your time for simply like you don't have to feel guilty. You can simply take your few minutes and just sit there with your hands above your chest. So please don't feel guilty for taking time for yourself and really working with your body and getting back to the present moment. So
I
yeah,
think,
thank you for pointing that out.
like, I remember when because I was working at the time, and you know, this is like
Mm,
before COVID started, when I first started Joe's Progressive. I had to go into an office. You know, my job at the time was in an office building with like hundreds of other
yeah.
people. And so I was, you know, but there would be times in my day where I would default and I would feel so much fear while I was at work, and I would excuse myself and I would go to the bathroom stall for like 10, 15 minutes, you know, in one of the stalls, and just put my hands over my heart, you know, just tune in, feel the feelings of my future. There were moments when I was at social gatherings that I would feel it as well, you know, family gatherings. I would excuse myself, go on a walk, go sit in my car, go to the bathroom, you know, really just I would make that a priority, because
Mm,
at that time I was like, it's either that I'm picking myself in this moment, or if I choose to stay, right, like, and engage with this talk with this coworker, with this family member, with this friend, I'm picking them over me. You know what I mean? And
mm,
that's not very loving to myself. And so you know, I would excuse myself and I'll come back, you know, I'll pick up the conversation, pick up whatever it was. Give me 20 minutes, give me 10 minutes, give me 25 minutes, you know, let me just, and I would just tell people I'll be right back. You know, I wouldn't give them an explanation, but I would just excuse myself and go come back, go and tune
mm,
back in, and then come back to remembering who I was and then go back out again, and into the 3D world and the experiences that I was in. Um, Cancun, though, for me, so that was my healing experience and journey. Cancun for me, I think, was the biggest life-changing experience, because right before I went to Cancun, so I was in a relationship with somebody, for about 6 years at the time. We had met
Wow.
in college, and as I started this work, it was like maybe the last year of, that I was in this relationship. So I started to notice that I was heading on a different path and a different trajectory, and Cancun had come at the most perfect time for me because
Mm.
my relationship felt like it wasn't working. My job at the time felt like it wasn't aligned for me. And I had actually taken a 2 month leave of absence from my job because it was very stressful at the time. I worked in tech, at a very big company in San Francisco and Silicon Valley, and so it was very stressful.
Wow.
I had to be on it all the time, and it paid well. It was my dream job right out of college with the salary that I wanted, but it just was not worth it to me anymore. After having gone through my experience, and I understood stress hormones, and I was being challenged every day. And so I took a 2 month leave of absence from my job. I took a medical leave, like for mental health reasons, and I was in a period of deciding. It was like a leap of faith into my new life, which I didn't even know at the time. It just kind of felt like right before Joe that everything that I had known was breaking down. My
Mm.
relationships, my friendships with people, my job, my source of income at the time. Um, and I took 2 months of leave of absence. And my first day back, I remember, was the first day that Dr. Joe's week long was going to be. I remember both the dates coincided. And I looked at that and I said to myself, I said, Punya, you have two choices here. You either go back to this job that you don't even like anymore, or you just take a leap into the unknown, and you've been wanting to go to this week long that ended up opening up at the right time. And you decide, which one you want to do. And I said, I'm going to go to Dr. Joe. So I registered. And at the time, I had money saved up from working, but I was terrified about, how what was going to happen, how everything was going to be. My then partner at the time was, traveling somewhere to see his family, and so I was, in the area by myself. And I remember, about a week before I went to Dr. Joe, they had sent out the instructions, create your mind movie of what you want and all that
Mm.
stuff, and the pictures and the affirmations and everything. And I made my mind movie about money because I was like, if I'm leaving my job, then I gotta money for myself. And so that's what I'm going to create. So, and the beliefs and perceptions meditation really stood by me. So I said, okay, there's clearly some beliefs I have about money, right? Let me become familiar with some of them. And I remember Googling, like, what are the most common money beliefs that people have, and it's like, because I didn't know. I was like, I've never looked at money beliefs before. So let me just Google and see what's out there. And there were things like, money is the root of all evil.
Oh
You have
yeah.
to work hard for money. To sacrifice for it. Wealthy people are greedy. It's greedy or selfish to want more money. And I was reading through this and I'm like, yeah, I actually resonate with a lot of these. Like, okay, I got to change this. So I made a list, starting with a search on the internet. And then I started to ask myself, well, what are things that I learned from my parents? What are things that I learned from my childhood about money? And I wrote them all down. And on the other side of the paper, I did the same exercise as my healing. I said, what are the new beliefs that I want to believe? And it was like, money is easy. It's effortless for me. I have so much. It flows in abundance. It's wanting more for yourself is a good thing. You
Yeah.
have to pour into your cup first. And I made all these into a mind movie, all these new beliefs. And the background of each picture was like money, some sort of cash or money coming in somewhere. And I started to I made my mind movie about a week before Joe, and I started to watch it leading up to the days of Dr. Joe, my first week long. And around the same time, my boss emailed me and said, hey, we're looking forward to you coming back to work next week, because I hadn't let my company know I wasn't coming back yet. I was still on my leave of absence. And so I sent her an email and I said, hey, I'm actually not going to be coming back to work next week. I'm sorry to let you know. But I didn't say anything like I'm going to quit, you know? And
So you
at
just
the
left it in the room?
so I just left it at that, you know. And at the time, another family friend of mine, he had worked for a company, you know, in the Bay Area as well, and there were layoffs that were happening across big tech companies during COVID. And he wasn't even into the work or anything like that, and I was inspired by his story, which is what was the inspiration for my mind movie. And he worked at this company that said, you know, we're gonna ask people to opt into being laid off before we decide who's going to be laid off, and as a result we'll give you guys a severance package, which is like a couple months or weeks of pay for you to leave. And so what ended up happening with him, he'd only been at the company for 2 years, but when printing the offer letters for severance, their algorithm messed up. And instead of 2 years of pay, they calculated 20 years of pay for him. So he got a direct deposit of $80,000 from this company for severance for somebody that had been there for 20 years. And by the time the company realized the mistake, they were like, well, we've already paid him out. We can't do anything. And I
Oh
was so
shit.
inspired by his story. And I said, I'm leaving my job. I would love severance. You know, I don't want to quit, because if you quit and you resign, you don't get anything. And so
Mm.
in my email to my manager, I just said, hey, I'm just not able to come back. I said, I'm just leaving it open ended, right? Like, I'm not saying I'm quitting. I'm just not going to show up to work on Monday. And I get an email like so Dr. Joe, I think I was flying out to his retreat on a Sunday. It was going to start on Monday, and on the Friday right before, I get an email from HR saying, hey, can you hop on a phone call with us? And leading up to this call, which I didn't even know about, I was watching my mind movie every single day, and I had the intention um, of this creation that I wanted. And I was doing tuning into new potentials as well. That just like my friend, I wanted to create like $50,000 or $60,000, you know, of a payment out of nowhere, because that would be great. You know, I would love
Why
that.
not?
Why not? Yeah, I thought, why not? If he could do it, then I could totally do it. And so I wrote this down, and I get on the call with HR, and I'm thinking, you know, they're gonna yell at me or something, you know, it's whatever. And they said, look, so Punya, before I even said anything, I got on the call. They said, look, so we saw the email that you sent to your manager, and so this is what we're prepared to do. They said, we've written up a severance letter for you. We just need you, you know, in order for you to exit the company, since you've not officially quit, we are prepared to offer you, I think it was like $13,000 or something like that, cash
Wow.
payment. And they said, you know, you just have to sign the legal form saying you're not going to sue us and all that stuff, and we'll part ways here. And I said, okay, do I get anything else, like in addition to the 13,000? Because in my head, I'm like, this is not the amount. I'm still grateful, but this is not the amount that I wanted. And they said, oh, you also qualify for California EDD. And I didn't really know what that was at the time, and I was like, all right, I'll look it up afterwards. So I hung up and I looked it up, and it was unemployment benefits. So you had to apply for it, you know, with the state of California, and they check with your employer that you're no longer with them. And so, long story short, what ended up happening was, at that time, the state of California would give you, normally I think it was $400 a week for unemployment, but because of COVID, they had additional grants, so they would give you, I
Wow.
think, like $800 a week. So it was like, you know, $3,200. But then on top of that, because of COVID, there was a package. So the federal government gave you an additional amount on top of what your state gave you. And when I did all the math, it was like $5,000 or $6,000. And that program, you had to like reapply, you know, and just fill out a questionnaire every single week or every 2 weeks saying, hey, I'm actively looking for jobs, you know, yada, yada. And they would keep you on the unemployment benefits for up to 9 months.
Wow.
So when I did the math, I was like, oh my gosh, like it was like, I think it was like five or six, I think it was close to $6,000 that I was getting. So I was like 6,000 times nine. I have to pull up a calculator. I don't even remember what the math on that is. So it
Holy
was
shit.
64,000 times 9. So that was $54,000 that I was going to get over the course of 9 months. And I got a one-time payout from my company, which was about $13,500. So when I did the math of everything, it was $67,500, that I was gonna get basically like over the next 9 months. And I'm just sitting there, like, when I understood everything the Friday before I left to my week long, and I was like, I feel like my mind movie already came true. Like I just made it like a week ago. And
Holy shit.
and I went to Dr. Joe on that Monday, and I on that Sunday, and the event started on Monday. And I was just kind of in a state of like awe, like, wow, like the universe really worked things out for me, and as I was about to take a leap of faith. And that week long was, such a magical experience for me. And it was, it was amazing. And after the week long, I really wanted to go to Tulum. So I had a group of people the last day, youth people at the time. And we all decided to get an Airbnb and go to Tulum for 2 weeks. And we were meditating every day. We were having so much fun as a group. And I just kind of felt like, I was like, I want to stay in Mexico. I don't want to go back to California. And I had a whole extra, suitcase of some extra clothes with me. And I said, I think I'm just going to stay here for a little bit. And I texted my family letting them know I wasn't going to come back, and my then partner at the time, I'm not coming back home. I'm going to stay in Mexico for a little bit. I'm doing a retreat, an extended version of my own retreat. And I ended up staying in Mexico, I think, for about 3 months. And I was doing to synchronize your energy to a new life every day, because I was in such an unknown. I was like, I quit my job, yes, I have this money, but I don't feel like the relationship I'm in is right for me anymore. And one day it just kind of clicked in my meditation, and I was like, I'm going to fly back home. I'm going to end my relationship. I'm going to pack up this apartment lease that I had at the time, that was going to expire. And so I flew back for a few days, and I ended everything, and my lease, my relationship, saw my parents, and just said, I'm going back to Mexico. I'm flying back, after a couple days. And I flew back, and I really did a lot of work on me. I was meditating 2-3 times a day, doing lots of journaling, going to different kind of like yoga ceremonies, cacao ceremonies, while in Mexico. And I spent like 6 months really just focused on me.
Wow,
After the
that's beautiful.
retreat. And I had the funds coming in as well, fortunately, from my creation to help support everything for me. And I was living abundantly. Like I was spending, like I was like, I'm abundant. That was another reality I was creating for myself at the time. And I think August of 2022 is when I came back to the States, and I had came back to Miami. I had manifested an apartment for myself in Miami that I wanted, at a certain price point. And while I was there, I was going to more Dr. Joe events, AFUs, week longs, from some of the funds I had been given. I was just like, I'm all in on this guy. It's clearly working for me, and it's great stuff. And I think around that time, I said, I'm ready to start manifesting, a relationship that is aligned for me. And so, at this point I thought, okay, I've done health, I've done money, and now I'd like to bring in love, that would be really cool. And I wrote down a list of like all these characteristics I wanted in this person, and the kind of relationship that I wanted, how I wanted our families to interact, and our relationships with them. And I thought to myself, I said, I need this person to be in the work, because I feel like I'm changing so quickly. And I feel like for me, I thought, if I'm with somebody that's not in this work, I feel like I'm going to outgrow them very quickly. And I don't want a relationship that's going to last, and that somebody can grow with me. And and so I had written my whole list, and I thought to myself, I said, Joe says that to create a new reality, you need to liberate energy from the past. And I said, okay, I'm gonna make a list of everybody because I still felt like I was holding on to emotions, for my ex at the time and for, emotions towards my dad, my grandfather, and just, different men, cousins that I had in my life.
Yeah.
That had done certain like, annoying things that I just didn't appreciate. And so I made a list of any man, that had ever hurt me in the past. And I said, I'm going to start forgiving because that's going to liberate energy and I can use that to create, what I want to create.
Yeah.
And I started doing a go love every single day for the first person on the top of my list. And it was a meditation for opening your heart and sending energy to them. And it was very powerful. I cried in a lot of them. I felt like I was releasing old emotions and
Mm.
forgiving people. And I would go on to the next person only when I was done, when I really felt like I had forgiven, that person on the list. And when I was done, I would cross their name off the list and go to the next. And so I started to do this. I did this, I think, for about like 30 days or so. And then I thought, I remember going to one of the AFUs in Marco, and I heard Joe say, you have to, act as it. You got to be that person when you get up from your meditation. And so I thought, okay, well, if I had this relationship that I wanted, what would I be doing? And I said, well, I would go on dates with this person, to like the coolest places in Miami. I had just moved there at the time. I would, one of the things I wanted to be taken care of, financially. And
Mm.
so, and I wanted that from my partner because I'm like, down the line, I want to have kids and I want him to be able to support while I'm focused on raising the family and the kids. And so, I would imagine, whenever I would go grocery shopping or shopping for clothes or something, and I would swipe my credit card, I would pretend that it was this imaginary, person that I was in a relationship with. Like, oh, thanks so much, babe. Like, thanks so much for like, being so generous with me. And I would pretend that it was him, like, giving me a credit card
Mm.
that I swipe. I also, when I would meditate in the morning, I had like another pillow next to me with an extra set of blindfolds. I would just hug the pillow in the morning and be like, all right, I'll see you on the other side, after our meditations. Like, I just kind of made it fun, because I was like, I would meditate with him. We would go on dates together, so I started making reservations just for me at like some really nice romantic
Mm.
restaurant in Miami over the weekend. And it would be like when I first started showing up, I felt uncomfortable. I'm like, what are you doing, you weirdo? You're just showing up to these restaurants, like going like by yourself, and there's couples all around you. This was my inner
Mm.
thought at the time. And I said, I'm just going to go with it. And I started to pretend that there was, the waiters would come, they say, oh, we could take the chair away from you in front. No, leave it there, like leave that chair. And leave the plate set there for a second person as well. And I would just start imagining that there was somebody in front of me. And as I was eating my meal, that I'm having this full on conversation with this person, I'm in my own mind, just like I'm in my imagination at this point,
I
not
love
caring
that.
what anybody else around me thinks.
Did
And
you ever have the fear that you would go like, am I sure that I'm not going delusional? Like, full, like, did it
you
ever
know,
cross through
I
your mind?
I don't think so. I just kind of made it fun for myself. Like I just
Okay,
kind of
that's
was
cool.
living in my own world, and I was like, I'm just gonna have fun with this. And I had a pillow I would sleep next to in bed, and I would imagine that that was like somebody that I was my partner that I was sleeping with, and I just kind of made it fun for myself. So I was doing like
Mm.
the credit card thing, the taking myself out to dates, to museums, to restaurants. And in the process, I feel like I started to love myself because I love myself enough to put myself in these uncomfortable situations where I would really never do this by myself, right? Like I would always I would never take myself out on dates or do this stuff for myself. And so um I think the process of me doing that, I started to fall in love with myself and I started to become whole. I started
Mm.
to realize that I was worthy of love because I was loving myself, by doing these things for myself. And I think that in that process, it really, really started to embody wholeness. And this is like 2 months into after I wrote down, everything I wanted on my list. And I went to an AFU in Denver. This was like Halloween of 2022, and it was beautiful. I love Denver. I was looking to get out of Miami at the time. It was a little too hustle and bustle for me with the city.
Mm-hmm.
I loved Denver, and I was ready to go all in the AFU. And on, I think the day before the event ended, I had a profound meditation where I felt like I saw this like hot tub scene, with like snow outside, and there were two wine glasses on like the coffee table, and it was like just such a vibe. There's a fireplace. It was like so romantic, and I there was somebody there with me. I just didn't know who it was, and this was the person that I was in a relationship with. And I felt the scene in my meditation. I wasn't trying, I wasn't working on visualizing it. I was just in my heart, and it came to me. And it was just so beautiful, and I felt so thankful and so much love for this. And the next day, when the event ended, so this was their first youth event, so they had organized certain activities for the youth as
Mm-hmm.
a retreat. And there was a couple youth at the bar the last night, and I was just hanging out at the bar, kind of drinking some wine. And one of the youth, it was like, kind of getting late. I was about to get up and go. And one of the youth that I saw came up to me. His name was Eddie. And he said, "Hi, I'm Eddie." I'm like, "Oh, hi, I'm Punya." And, he just sat next to me at the bar, and we just started talking. And the first topic we started talking about was polarity, like masculine, feminine, and the polarity, and how what Joe talks about. And one of the things I wrote down on my list was, I want this person and I to have a strong polarity in each of our energies, me in the feminine energy, and this man in the masculine energy. And the very first conversation we started talking about was polarity. And I kind of thought, okay, that's interesting. I didn't think anything of it. And we talked for like 4 hours that night, about our dreams, our goals, what we wanted in life, what we were creating, how we got to the work. And we exchanged numbers, and I flew back to Miami, and he lived in Colorado at the time, Colorado Springs. And I flew back to Miami, and I, we were texting, and my lease, funny enough, my landlord texted me, and she said, "Hey, I need my apartment back in 5 days. You have 5 days to pack up." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, like, okay."
Got
And I,
it.
yeah, okay. So, and I was thinking, I'm like, well, I don't really want to stay in Miami. I love Denver. Denver was really nice. And I started just looking online for apartments. And I told myself, this is another funny little manifestation. I told myself, I said, all right, universe, I said to the universe, I said, for me to leave Miami in 5 days and like go somewhere else, I need to I had a scooter at the time. I said, I have to sell my scooter. I need to find a place. If I'm going somewhere else, especially if it's to Denver, I don't have any warm clothes. I would like $2,000 for a nice shopping spree, to go get cold winter clothes somewhere. And I think I had like one more thing. I don't even remember. But those are my three big things, selling my scooter, finding a place at the price point I wanted, and
Mm.
$1,000 for a shopping spree.
Did you
And
still have some funds from the last manifestation, or were you
I
running
did,
low?
but it was starting
Okay.
to run out at this time.
Okay.
So I did have funds, but it was starting to run out, and I just kind of told the universe, "Hey, this is what I wanted." And that night, when I landed from coming back from Denver, I was on my computer just looking up places, and I saw this ad on Instagram that popped up, landing, and it was like I just clicked on it, and it was furnished apartments. And I started looking, and I found this one furnished apartment, and it was like, you do an application, you get into their network, and you can live anywhere in the country with furnished apartments for up to 6 months. You just have to give a 30-day notice every time you move. And I saw this one really nice apartment I liked, but it was $400 or $500 more a month than I was willing to pay for. And I left my laptop on the sofa, and I went to the bathroom. I used the bathroom, and I came back, and my website refreshed, and there was an automatic promo code that I had not typed in that was applied on the checkout page. And I just looked at that, and I was like, that's kind of weird. And I looked at the price, and it brought the price down exactly $500 to my
Wow.
budget. And I was like, I don't even know where this promo. I didn't type anything. I didn't look anything up. It was my screen just refreshed. I thought my internet was buggy, and the promo code applied. And I said, okay, that works out. I'll take it. So I hit the checkout and I reserved the apartment. One of my friends at the time, she said, we were going somewhere. I was saying bye to everybody I knew in Miami, and she was riding with me on my scooter. And she's like, "This is so fun. What are you going to do with this? I love this scooter." And I said, "I don't know." And she said, "I'll pay you $800 for it." And that was literally how much I had bought it for. So I was like, "Sure, like take it. It's yours." And then the last thing I remember, I had an issue with an Amazon order, and I
Mhm.
called Amazon, and I was just, chit chatting with the lady on the phone. She was really nice, and she was like, "Oh, you're moving?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm going to Denver." And she said, "Oh, it's really cold there." I said, "I know. I'm hoping to get $2,000 for a nice shopping spree there." And she said, "Well, what are you doing with everything else you have left from your apartment right now?" And I said, "I don't know." And then she looked at my Amazon history, and she said, "Wow, you bought a lot of stuff. Is this for your Miami apartment?" I said, "Yeah, I bought it off my Miami apartment thinking I was going to stay here, but I'm not." She said, "Well, sweetie, your return window is still open, right?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And she said, "Well, you just bought all this stuff. Like, I think it was like 20 or 30 days ago. You haven't been there for that long." She was like, "Your return window is open. I can just submit return requests for you and you can return some of the stuff that you bought." And I was
Oh,
like,
genius.
"Really?" And she was like, "Yeah." So she's like, "Just drop it off at the nearest Whole Foods." And I said, "Okay." And I dropped it off, and the total was 2,100 in refunds coming back to me, that I wanted. So those three things that I told the universe, literally within a matter of 5 days, like everything just kind of collapsed in such a beautiful way.
Beautiful.
I, I texted Eddie. I said, "Hey, I'm moving to Denver. I'm coming, in November, the first week." And I got there, and we went out on a date, and then we started dating. And funny enough, that New Year's Eve, of that year, like a few months into us dating, uh, I he had booked this nice experience for us, and it was snowing. I hadn't seen snow yet in Denver, and we were in my apartment. I had a fireplace. He had brought over a bottle of wine, took out 2 wine glasses, put it on the coffee table, fireplace going right in front of it. And just an hour before New Year's, fresh snow on the balcony started to come down. And the couple days before, we had gone on a trip, and there was like a nice, hot tub there, and it was like very cool experience. And I just remember having the feeling like, "Oh my God, this is the vision that I saw at the AFU just a few months ago." Like, holy crap,
Mm,
I'm in this reality, that I had created for myself. Um,
amazing.
and it was so beautiful. And so at this time, I was also starting to run out of money. The funds that I had manifested,
Mm-hmm.
I started to run out of money. And I started to work on my money beliefs, as a lot of this stuff was happening. And my goal was to manifest. I wanted an opportunity where I would work 8 to 10 hours a week, anywhere I wanted, remotely. I'd never wanted to go into an office again, and I wanted to have $20,000 every single month. It was like a $20,000 opportunity, for a few months to
Mm-hmm.
build back up my accounts. And I was doing, I had started to do something with my beliefs. The way that I was doing my beliefs, I would write my beliefs, and I would cross it out, my old belief,
Mm.
say this is a lie, like this is no longer true, right? So,
Yeah.
well, when I wanted $20,000 months, I hadn't been working. I hadn't been like working for almost like 9-10 months at the time because I had the funds coming in, and I had this belief that I picked up, like no one's gonna want to hire you. You haven't worked anywhere for like 8 or 9 months, right? Like you don't have
Mm.
you. And so I would just write all these beliefs down on a in my journal, and I would cross them out one by one every single day. I did this exercise every single day because every day when I wrote down my new beliefs, there was a new story that was coming up in my head of another
Yeah.
why I wasn't worthy of the 20,000, right? Or another reason why it shouldn't happen. And I would
Mm-hmm.
write all of them down every single day, once a day, and cross them out and write, this is a lie. The next one, this is a lie. You are not worthy. This is a lie. No one's going to just pay you $20,000 working for 8 to 10 hours a week. That is a lie. And I would write like new beliefs on top of it, which is like, there's so many opportunities coming my way paying me $20,000, just and I did this for I think 2 months prior to like the funds running out. And
Mm.
I was trying. At this point I was in panic mode, right? Because money triggers survival, I think, for a lot of
Yeah,
people.
definitely.
And I was freaking out. I was like, I don't have that much money left in my account, and I need this to work. So I was meditating extra. I was going all extra. Yeah, I was doing stuff that had worked for me in the past, but I was putting
Mm.
the known on top of the unknown. So I was trying to force it. I was trying to predict it. I was trying to control it in the process. And Eddie said, "Hey, it's almost Christmas time. This was like 2 months into me doing this. And he said, "Hey, it's Christmas. Let's go up to the mountains. Vale is supposed to be beautiful." I said, "Sure, let's do it." And so he booked a trip for us up there. And for the whole week, I was meditating, but I was just in a more fun, loose state with it.
Mm-hmm.
The $20,000 opportunity, it wasn't even in my brain at all. We were just having fun when we were up there. And while we were up there, I get a lot of messages on LinkedIn all the time from recruiters at companies, and I never really look at it. And when we came back, I saw a message that said, "Hey, I have 2 clients." It was a recruiter saying, "Hey, I have 2 clients that are both big tech companies that want to talk to you because they're interested in your skill set and your background." And I was like, I don't really want to work for anybody else. I don't know. And then she gave me the names of the clients, and one of them was a big cryptocurrency company. And I was kind of into crypto at the time. So I said, "Oh, that sounds interesting." Like, "Oh, sure, I'll hop on a call, right? Like, let's just see what it is." And so I hopped on a call with them, and the guy had gotten my resume beforehand, and it was such an informal chat. Like, we really didn't talk about work stuff. He was going on
Oh,
paternity.
lovely.
He was going out. He was having a baby. We were talking about his wife in the nursery, and he asked me maybe like 1 or 2 questions about my skill set, my background, and I answered it. And he was like, "Listen, so your resume speaks for itself. We really like you. Do you mind meeting my manager tomorrow?" And I was like, I enjoyed the conversation. It was cool. Like, sure, right, whatever. I didn't have any expectation about it. And I met his manager the next day. Same thing, very informal conversation. Um, and then the day after, I get a call from the recruiter, and she says, "Hey, so they really like you. They want to work with you." And she said, they can either hire you as a normal employee, or if the other way we can work with you is if you have your own company, we can make a contract between them and your company, and they would pay your company, and it's more flexible that way, and you get more money because you're paying your own taxes. And ironically, just 2 months ago, I had created a company. I just named it my name because I didn't know what I was going to do with it. I was like, I'm just going to keep this here, whatever comes comes. And so she gave me the numbers, like the rundown if I were to work for them. Yeah, and the numbers if they were to hire my company, and that came with certain stipulations which were more in my favor. And when I did the numbers, it came out to depending on the month, because certain months have certain days, and so the amount was different. It was between $19,200 and $24,000. and
Wow.
and so on average it was kind of falling at about like $22,000. And I was working 8 to 10 hours a week with this
Beautiful.
client. It was very easy. I could work from anywhere I wanted. I had my own laptop. And so that was a contract that I did for 6 months, just to create, more abundance, in
Wow.
an easy way. So it was, I think after my first year of going to Joe's week long, it was like so many, beautiful manifestations, but I was also very serious about the work and about creating
Mm-hmm.
and changing my own energy, and so it was a very magical year for me after the health.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing all of this. What I love about your story, about your approach, you're very technical, or you're very practical in your approach how to change beliefs and perceptions. You just, all right, let's do GOLO for everything. Like you told me in a private conversation, you would not only do like you done the GOLO for men to call in your new love and just get rid of all the stuck energy, but you would also do this for new jobs, like forgiving all like nasty colleagues or whatnot. And I love this. This is such a genius thing to do. So I'm gonna definitely apply this too. And just I was wondering what you did, because you said money at this time was a bit challenging for you, or like you, what would you do when you're really in survival and trying to force things, and you look into your future and you cannot predict it, because if you try to make it happen, it usually goes worse or it just gets chaotic. So
Yeah.
how did you manage to keep your energy, like, or in those moments did you just were more compassionate with yourself and like, okay, I reacted, but that's not a big of deal, let's go back to the present moment and let's just get it off? Or were there some other techniques or just nuggets that you did that helped you to stay aligned and just getting really living the future that you live right now?
Yeah, so I think money is a very interesting one because every time I've created money in my life, even since then, it's always been in kind of a chaotic state in the beginning because I want the money because I don't have, maybe a certain amount that I would like, or there's things that I would like to spend the money on that are not aligned with the current financial reality that I have. And so usually when I write down what I want, it's in a state of lack. It's in a state
Mm-hmm.
of like, this is what I want, right? Because I don't have it. And I would do my meditations, I would feel the feelings, but then the rest of the day I would go looking for it. Or if I wasn't looking for it, I was trying. I would start doing things in the 3D world, to make it happen. Like if I wanted more clients, like after this company, basically what I was doing ended up starting a business on its own, without me realizing it. And I would try to force more clients for more money, I would try to go out looking for clients, hunting for them, etc. And I realized that that wasn't always like helping me. It was when I was in a state of flow, and like when I would, so I think for me, what I learned in my own way of creating is, and this is with money and with apartments, because I think, and with homes, and really, because I think money and homes give a sense of security, right? When you don't
Yeah.
have that, you're a little bit more in flight and a little bit more in survival. And so for me, I would write down what I wanted, and then I would start trying to manic manifest, as I like to say. Try to force it. I would go to real estate showings, trying to disguise it as taking action in the 3D. But a lot of times and then I would see like the crappiest places, that I just didn't even like, or like I would get clients that just had like rates that I was just not even willing to entertain in the first place. And so for me, what would happen is I would do this for a couple weeks, and then I would get so tired and I'd be like, oh, I quit. Like I'm so tired of trying. I've just been, like in a frenzy in my energy. I'm just gonna go have fun for a day, right? And I would plan something fun for myself.
Oh.
And the funniest like coincidences from the universe, on the day that I decided to have fun and not try, were the days that my manifestations would come true. Like the client, like when with Eddie, right? Like I was trying to change my beliefs for money, for the $20,000 for like 2 months. And then he said, hey, let's go to the mountains. Like, let's have fun. Let's have a week of fun. So we were like going out, and I didn't think about it. I wasn't thinking about the money that I had or didn't have. I was just enjoying in the present moment, having fun. And that was when the message from the recruiter came, with the company.
Hmm.
um, Similarly, when I wanted to try to manifest an apartment in Miami at the time when the market was the hottest because of COVID, everybody was moving to Florida. I was trying for 3 weeks, meeting realtors and setting appointments. And I said to myself, finally, like 3 weeks in, I'm like, you've been in Miami and you haven't even gone to the beach. And that was the reason you wanted to come here in the first place. So I made a plan just to go to the beach that day. And on my way to the beach, there was a showing that popped up out of nowhere for a place that ended up being the place with the exact terms and conditions that I wanted. And so um, I think for me, I would say if you can let go and have more fun in the moment,
Yeah.
know that when you're in survival, that's probably the hardest thing to do, because your instincts don't want you to do that. They want you to try harder, change your energy more, work on it matter to matter, do more meditations. Like, it's either, for me, it's either try harder in the 3D or try harder in the 5D, like meditate more,
Yeah.
more, change your energy more, like do more healings. Um, and it was finally when I let go in those moments and I started to just have fun, that was when the magic started to happen. But when I say that though, I also want you to, because this is another thing that I would do that maybe some people would do too. You're like, I'm having fun. Is it here
Yeah.
yet? Like, it's like, so it's like, it's so funny because I've done that myself. It's like, okay, I've let go. And then you're like opening your eyes, kind of looking around, like, is it here yet? Like, you know what I mean? But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about when you really let go, because I've done that too. And then I'm like, oh, I'm just getting caught up in myself. And so it's funny how the body does that, because I've had so many moments like that myself.
Mm.
Um, so if my advice would be to really let go and to detach. And what I've learned more so now, and I'm experimenting with this in my own current sum of money that I'm creating, is ask yourself, what is the core feeling from a survival standpoint that money would give you, or that the house or the home or the abundance would give you. And
Mm.
ahead of that experience, start feeling that. So for example, if you're losing a job, or if you don't have a job, or you're trying to move out of an apartment because you have roommates, or whatever your situation is that you want something in, ask yourself on a deeper level, if you were to be really honest with yourself, what is the reason you want that thing? Like for
Yeah.
me, as an example, like right now I'm creating a sum of money that I've never had before. It's a larger amount to me. And to me, at first I was thinking that would, the reason I wanted that was freedom. So I would think about travel and all that stuff, in my mind. But truly, and then I would try to force those feelings in my meditation,
Yeah.
like, because when you put some sort of a reason or emotion on the thing that you want, that's not truly the main reason that you want it, you try to force feeling it in a meditation. I've done that, and I do that a lot too. And it's only when you get connected on a deeper level to your why, like, why do you truly want money? If it is truly freedom, then that's fine. If it
Mm.
is, for me, I realized though it wasn't freedom, it was security. I wanted a
Yeah.
sense of peace. Like, I never have to work again, because money is just not something I ever have to worry about. Like, that was it for me. It was that, like, like, I don't ever have
Mm-hmm.
again, right? Like, it was that feeling, like, of security, like I'm secured for life. And that was
Yes.
why. And so when I realized that, it becomes easier to go into your meditation and give yourself that feeling,
Oh yeah.
because that feeling is the reason that you're attaching the pressure on this external reality for that thing to manifest, because you're
Yes.
waiting for that thing to give you that feeling, that deep core feeling that will take away the survival that you feel. So identify what that really core deep feeling is attached to this external manifestation, and start giving yourself that first in your meditations. And when you get up from your meditations throughout your day, when you catch yourself thinking, oh my God, I just want that thing to be here because then I'll feel this. Because I do that too, right? Like when I get up from my meditations, I'll pause, stop, and catch myself, close my eyes, and then practice bringing up that feeling. Like, and practice bringing up the security. Like for me, the security and gratitude. So like gratitude, I think goes for anything, you know, to, like Joe says, gratitude is the ultimate state of receivership. But when you start practicing that core feeling that's attached to the external manifestation and giving yourself that first, you take the pressure off of this external thing to give that to you. And I
Yeah.
think when you are able to do that and truly sustain that and practice getting better at that every day, because you no longer need this external thing anymore because you're giving the feeling to yourself, now you create from wholeness. Now
Yeah.
you've moved out of lack. And now for me, I've noticed that when I do that, and I'm no longer looking for this external thing because I've given myself permission to feel the feeling that's attached to this external thing, now I don't care so much about this external thing. And when I don't care so much about it, that's when it shows up in my life. And it's kind of funny how that works from the universe. So for me, that's been my lessons learned is like feel the feelings of what you want, but really the
Yeah.
core why for why you want it. Because when you identify that, it takes the pressure off of the external thing giving it to you, and then you're not so hell-bent and like focused on I need this, I need this, I need this, I need this outside of,
Yes.
right? And then it just becomes like a, oh, I'm already feeling that. Like, yeah, this thing would be nice to have, right? Like the money would be nice to have, but I already feel secure. I already feel
Mm.
I already feel the peace of mind, you know, and then having this thing would be nice because, yeah, it'd be cool to travel. It'd be cool to do this stuff, but you're not like, I need this. You don't have that kind of an energy behind it because that's neediness, that's lack, right?
Yeah.
And the easiest way that I've kind of like learned this in an analogy is in a relationship. Like when if you're dating, right? Like you're single and somebody comes up to you and they're super needy and they're super attached and they need you to tell them how much you love them every single day. Or, you know, you're not attracted to that person because you're like, oh my gosh, like you're so,
Yes.
you know, needy. And, but when you come across people that are like, hey, it's cool to have you in my life, but like I'm secure on my own, you're attracted to that. You're like, wow, like that's really cool, right? And so I think similarly, the universe works that way too. When we're that needy, attached person to our manifestations, it's like, I feel like the universe says, okay, I want to give it to you, but this is not the state that I can give it to you in. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
when you move yourself out of that state and become that confident person that already gives themselves that core feeling that they have attached to the external manifestation, you move your state from being that needy attached person to being that like person that is magnetic, that everybody's like, there's something about that person, I just want to be around them. They don't need me to be around them, but I'm attracted to them. It's magnetic
Mm.
energy. And I feel like the same thing with the universe, and the universe is like, okay, you've gotten out of your way, you're magnetic. Like, here's the thing that you wanted, you know?
Yes, it's so true. It's funny because I love everything you said. First of all, mic drop. And I noticed that when I give myself permission to be it in meditation, be it like in visualization, to really envision what I really want without judging it. Like, for instance, I don't know, it can be simple as like you want to be more attractive or you want to receive more compliments. Just imagine yourself getting these compliments. At the beginning, I was always like, no, but like a whole person wouldn't do that. But you're not whole yet, so you have to give it to yourself in a way, or like you took yourself out for a date and you were giving everything that you wanted from your partner. You gave it to yourself first, and then you start to feel whole, like you were saying. So really encourage people here, just get clear what you want, and if it's like to not get rid but to satisfy a need or like a survival state, to satisfy that, or like that you don't have to feel this anymore, like be honest about it. I was really honest about my mind movie that I'm currently creating, and it hits so different. when I put in the affirmations that I really need, like in the sense of like, yeah, I feel if I would think like this, I this is my step to get closer to wholeness. Or if I would have this, like, this never ending supply of abundance, because for me it's also, money is about safety and security and stability, as well as having a home, as well as maybe social constructs, or like social, like friends or family, like a social network that you can rely on. Because I've been moving a lot of places and I have changed a lot of environments. So I noticed for me, it came up in meditation. So, I think honestly, above all the homes, I want to have like a place where I'm home. Like I want a home. So I've been putting that in my mind movie. So it's not just another apartment or a house. I really want a home right now. So, and I feel it hits so much different. Before, I was struggling sometimes with mind movies or vision boards, because I was like, I think I'm supposed to think or want this, or like, I think this emotion is supposed to what I feel. Like elevated emotions, we usually think of love, freedom, um, invincibility, or what, but it can also be something like relief, stability, security, effortlessness, peace of mind, something like, not like overly exploding or like energetic emotions like bliss or exuberance. It can be,
Yeah.
oh yeah, let me catch a breath here, like just relief, and it still works. So thank you so much for putting it so beautifully and breaking it down so beautifully. And that is so amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's like such a wonderful breakdown.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that like, sometimes even in the spiritual communities, right? Like including Dr. Joe, it's like you hear somebody else say their why for wanting something, or even like Dr. Joe, right? Like Dr. Joe says like most people that want abundance want freedom. And that might
Mm,
be true for some people, but it may not be true for others. Like maybe for you, your why for wanting abundance is security. Maybe it's safety. Maybe it's relief because you don't have to like run on a hamster wheel, right? To create money or do a job that you don't love anymore. Maybe it's that relief, right? Maybe it's the security. Um,
mm,
or a different emotion. And so I think sometimes when we try to put somebody else's why on our
mm,
why and we try to take that into our meditations, it feels like now you are trying to feel this emotion and there's resistance there
yeah.
because it's not your why that's coming from your own, from the depths of your heart in the first place. So I think that, because I've done that myself. Like I've created, I've thought that I've wanted certain things because of emotions I've heard Dr. Joe say or other people say. But then when I really tune into my heart and I ask myself, why do I really want this thing? Why do I really want, the partner? Why do I really want the home? Why do I really want the money? Why do I really want the wedding or whatever it is, right, that I'm creating in my life? Or why do I want this car? Like whatever the feeling is, and there's no right or wrong, right? It's just
Yeah.
whatever you want that for. Like you could want a car because you want to feel like super sporty and you just want to like, feel the feeling of that, and that gives you feelings of abundance. Or you could want a home because you want peace. You want that to be your peaceful oasis or sanctuary where you can just go home at the end of the day and be like, oh, like this is my place. This is my monastery,
Mm,
where I go. So whatever you're creating, I encourage, everybody in this community, especially the youth, because I'm like, you have your whole life ahead of you to create. Everybody is so young, and it's like, figure out your why for wanting what you want, like your deeper why, because then when you go into meditation, you don't have to try to feel that feeling because it's coming from
yeah.
your heart in the first place. It's like when you really are connected to that, when you go, if you want wealth or abundance, if freedom is what you're trying to feel, but your real why might be security or something else, but you're over here trying to force the feeling of freedom, it's going to feel like you're trying in your meditation.
Yeah.
I feel like I can't feel that feeling because what you really want is something else. So when you really listen to that why, it just naturally is a feeling that comes up because your soul is showing that to you.
Exactly. And I mean, the feelings can always evolve then later too, once the feeling of stability and security is satisfied, and naturally feelings of maybe freedom will arise more, like desire to feel free. I notice that when I move sometimes, or shift in energy, like you get from fearful to more confident or more bold. So it's like a natural evolution, and then you naturally change your affirmations or just like the things that you want. So not judging where you're at and just really being generous and just really giving yourself the permission to satisfy all the feelings that you want to feel, like safety and security. It's not less spiritual. So go for it and have fun with and trying this out and just like applying this, and just give yourself permission to give it to yourself first. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wow. I loved everything that you were saying. I just effortless. The ways you broken down everything. I loved it so much, and I'm sure that so many people have so many benefits from listening to it, because it's just literally a, I don't know, a Dr. Joe um course broken down into a beautiful story in your own personal story. And yeah, I thank you so much for being here. And if you have some last tips about, um, I know you use a specific app that I've been using too, and it's very helpful. So if you have some, apart from writing down the beliefs and cross it out, like uh, putting it's a lie above it, like what else do you have in your toolbox to really get those beliefs shifting?
Yeah. So aside from the writing down, two other things that I really love to do are so one, I started this along with my healing because I was very fascinated by beliefs. I found this app on the App Store. I'm not affiliated with them in any way. I just really think it's a great app. It's called Think, Think Up. And it's like an orange app with an orange background on the iPhone App Store, and I think they have it for Android too.
Yep.
It's an app where you can basically write they call it, it's an affirmation app, but the way that I use it is once I identify limiting beliefs, or even if I don't know what my limiting beliefs are, like say I want to create, $20,000 months or $50,000 months, or like whatever it is that you want to create, a house, relationship, love, an object, like whatever it is that you're creating, write down like the thoughts or the reality that you're in. So, for example, I am living in my dream home. I am in a relationship with my soulmate. I feel so much love. I am so wealthy. Money is pouring in effortlessly. Money is easy and effortless for me. I am unlimited. Whatever these new thoughts for you are, you can type each one of them into ThinkUp, and then you can record them in your own voice. And I use this app personally to self hypnotize myself because while I love Joe, one thing I've learned from his work is also learning to be my own master. And I think he's a big proponent of that as well, especially for the youth. And so, I record each of these thoughts into my own voice. You can add pictures to them as well. So, like, you can use the app to literally create your mind movie and just have like the wording and the picture right behind it. And then you can upload your own soundtrack and music. So I love Dr. Joe's music, and I love the composers he uses. So he uses Barry Goldstein. There's a few others that he uses as well that have really beautiful music that he does during the breath, that he does during the healings, during the heart opening parts of his meditations. I also like using delta brainwave frequency music for sleeping. So I'll get soundtracks from like the App Store, from like some other music place, and you can upload this into your app, and you can essentially hit play, and it will play the affirmations in your own voice. You can adjust the background music of the soundtrack. You can increase the music of your own affirmation voice to it, and then you can change the interval of time between when you hear every affirmation. Like you can change it to 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds. So it's kind of like you play your own meditation in a way, but like listening to the new thoughts of your new life. And it has done wonders for me. I listen to it the last 15 minutes when I'm falling asleep, and the first 15 minutes when I wake up in the morning, because Dr. Joe says those are the two windows that your subconscious mind is the widest open. And so what I've realized is when I listen to that, especially during those windows every day, the new thoughts that I have that I'm listening to naturally start to become my default thoughts during my
Mm.
day. Like, this is especially helpful if you're feeling unworthy, if you're feeling guilt or shame or something. Like for me, I had to overcome a lot of feelings of unworthiness, guilt, and shame, and feeling like it was selfish or greedy to want more money because that was just another program. So I created certain thoughts around money as a tool that I used for good.
Yeah.
Me, it is me having more money helps the world in a bigger way. Like these are thoughts that I had that I programmed in the app like years ago when I first started doing this. And I found that it helps to change my mindset much faster because you're doing it and your subconscious is listening to it. Some mornings when I don't want to listen to it, I will just like, for me, I have pictures in my app right now. So like I will just wake up in the morning and I'll grab my phone and I'll have like pictures in my app. So I'll have like, this is one like I'm financially free. I have one that's like everything I touch turns to gold. So I have a whole bunch of my affirmations in here that I have pictures associated with. So this is kind of like my mind movie. And I'll
Beautiful.
just kind of like swipe through this. I have pictures as well of like my bank account with like certain deposits in it. For me, money, a certain amount of money is what I'm working on. And I'll just kind of like swipe through the cards and like just kind of read it to myself in the morning if I don't want to listen to my voice saying it. So I kind of alternate between reading it and seeing the pictures, as well as listening to it. And that's been really amazing for me. The other thing that I do a lot as well, and I love this, is most recently I have, I have pictures of my mind movie of places that I would like to be, houses that I like and all of that. And while it's great to print those out, I like tricking my brain a step further. And so I go into my photos and I will find a photo. I don't know if this works on Android. I know it works on
It
iPhone.
does. When you
It does.
have WhatsApp, it does. It's a spoiler ahead. It's a genius trick. I love it. I tried it out once. It's so it's so good.
Yeah, I love it. Here, I can try to find like an example. So I'll just pick like a random photo of myself. So this is a photo of me on iPhone, and if you hover over it, you can see that it'll do like a sticker version. Like it'll kind of grab like sticker you, and you can like grab that sticker version of you and do like a copy on it, and then like it'll just basically take the outline of you from the photo. And then you can put that on top of a mind movie. Like, so for example, if you want to go to Greece, right? You can put that photo of yourself or you and your family, you and your partner, whatever you're creating, on top of a background of Greece. And so it feels like it's a memory. Like over time, when I look at these photos, I've created so many like of travel places, of us on like private jets,
Yes.
of us holding, like me and my partner, like holding a phone and then editing like my bank account on there to trick my brain into like, see, you guys are actually like holding that phone with that amount in your bank account. And I think what it does for me personally, it creates the illusion that that place that we're at, because I'm seeing myself in the picture, it's a past memory that's already happened. And so when I look at the photos, it has more meaning assigned to it because I can feel what it feels like being in there. And I guess it kind of taps on the imagination in a way too. Like I have pictures of us in
Yeah.
like Thailand, and we've never been there yet, in the 3D reality at least. And so when I see like elephants in the background in Thailand, it's like I'm like feeling, oh my gosh, like I've already, seen these elephants. I've been here, and it creates memories in your brain of what it feels like already having done those activities. And it's been really cool because a lot of those have come true for me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm literally in the scene of my mind movie. We have some like in Burj Khalifa in Dubai. We went to Dubai last year, had a beautiful, like, amazing trip there, and I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm now, my body is experiencing these memories that I've lived in the 5D, but in 3D, so I love that. And what I do with those photos is I'll use it in the Think Up app as well. So like I'll put them in the background, and I'll, like, I have some I can show you. Um,
This is
so that
so
when I'm looking at my
genius.
mind movie, I'm looking at pictures of me in a memory that I feel like I've already lived. So let me see if I can find some. Yeah, like I have this one. It says, I'm grateful the amount of money I receive grows significantly every month. And this is a photo of like me and my partner. We're holding up a phone and it has like a couple $1 million in deposits, because that's like one of the things that I'm creating right now. I've done the same thing with like family members. So like one of the things that I'm creating is to fly our family out to Dubai to spend Christmas with them this year. And I want to give everybody like $100,000 checks, because we've already created a level of abundance for ourselves. And so I have this picture of our family. I think it cut out my brother, but it says, I'm living a luxurious and abundant life. And it's like it's a picture that I've generated of like an Airbnb that I want to book for our family to do that. Another thing that I've done, like, because sometimes I have a certain vision of a place in my mind and I can't find a picture like on Pinterest or Google or something. So I've started using ChatGPT to create photos. So like this exact apartment, this is a photo that I created from ChatGPT. I said, hey, I want to take my whole family. I typed in on ChatGPT, I want to take my whole family to a waterside Airbnb overlooking Dubai Marina with a Christmas tree in it. I want you to show me a dining room, a living room, floor to ceiling windows. And I want you to have like enough space, in the beginning for me to add like pictures of people in there. And so I would type this in on ChatGPT as a prompt. I think you need to buy ChatGPT for it to create custom images for you, which is like $20 a month here in the United States. So you get access to Dolly 4, which is the software within ChatGPT that creates images. But it's created like some amazing images for me, like that just capture reality of my future life that I have not been able to find in a traditional photo. And then I'll overlay some of the stickers on top of that so that it feels like very, applicable to me and very unique to me. I've printed these photos out as well and put them all around my house so that in my day, when I have reminders, when I'm in the environment and I'm seeing the same people, working with similar clients, that I have the pictures all around me. So it reminds me of the life that I've already lived because I'm in those as a memory. And so I like printing them out, putting them all around our house. We have pictures, both myself and my partner as well. That's been really cool. And then most recently for money, I just did this like a few days ago. Um, I've just been, these are just things I play with, right? This is not things I've learned from anybody. I just kind of have fun with it in my own manifestation process. So these are just things that I've kind of played around with and had fun with, and have seen that have worked well for me. So I've just kind of added on to it over the years. Most recently, I opened a new bank account and I ordered checkbooks. I designed my own checkbooks from the bank account. So it has like my partner's name on it, my name on it, just really nice checks. And one of the things in my mind movie, and these are things I guess you could do to make it more real. One of the things in my mind movie is I want to write everybody in my family, my parents or siblings, my in-laws or soon to be in-laws, checks for $100,000 because we just want to share abundance with everybody. And so I bought actual checks. I spent like $20, just designing checkbooks for an account. And then I wrote checks. I wrote two sets of checks. One is $100,000 checks, and then another set is $1 million checks because I'm working on tuning into two different numbers right now. So I have $1 million checks, written real checks for everybody here. And I bought some envelopes as well that are sitting on my desk. I had this vision to put them into gold envelopes with like little gold sticker seals that are like hearts. So I just ordered this from Amazon, and I'm like, when I wrote the checks just 2 days ago, and me and my partner, we were signing the checks, like that moment felt so real to us, where we're like, oh my gosh, like, it's like, although that sum of money has not come in yet, when you're doing these things in your real life, it almost simulates like the feeling of it, right? Because when you're writing the check, to your parents, and I'm writing like, thank you for everything, it's like, it brings up a feeling for you where you're like, oh my gosh, like I feel so abundant that I can give my parents like $1 million. You know what I mean? And so that just alone, just the act of writing checks, can put you into that feeling. Um, Another, I did that. We did this at an AFU recently. So, so Eddie and I had this idea, showing up to our future selves at one of the AFUs at the future self party, the first day of the welcome party. He said, why don't we get, he found like a fake Louis Vuitton bag somewhere. And he said, why don't we get a fake Louis Vuitton duffel bag and order lots of stacks, fake money, of $10,000 stacks of money, and just fill the Louis Vuitton bag with money, because he was like, I want to feel like a baller, and I just want to walk around with this Louis bag that's filled with like $800,000 of cash, just cause. And so I bought some on Amazon. They're very cheap. You can get it from like Alibaba, Temu, like these types of places. So I have like literally a whole bunch of stacks of of fake checks that we then, after we came back from the retreat, we put on our desks. So I have like, like they're fake, but they're like $10,000 stacks of $100 bills. I have just a whole bunch of it here, just to normalize the feeling of, I don't know, this is maybe like $200,000, $300,000, like just sitting on my desk, just to normalize that.
Genius.
So,
Like just putting it everywhere around your house, just like
yeah,
all
like one of the
the
things because one of the things that I was bothered by, in my meditations is like, I have great meditations, and then I come out and then I'm the same person the rest of the day. And so I thought to myself, I said, I need to have reminders in my environment that signal different feelings for me, like especially at my desk, because this is where I work a lot. And so I said, when I'm seeing clients or something, I want to not get caught up in that energy of my old self. So I have reminders on my desk, like I have the checks that I've written here. I have the cash stacks, I have my mind movie pictures. Like I have them all kind of like printed out around my area. I have them on like my monitor, and like little sticky notes, and like bank account deposits and stuff. Just as
that is so
environmental
genius.
reminders, so that
Yeah.
it keeps me in the energy of my future, so that I can draw it to me in a shorter period of time. So another thing,
Yeah.
again, this is all money related, but I would encourage people to think about like, when you have the money, right? Just for money specifically, what would you do? And people say like, oh, I would travel, I would give my family money, I would buy a house, right? Like whatever you're going to do. And I would encourage you to go a step further and make it more real for yourself, and put your energy in that. So like, for example, for us, there's a specific account that Chase has, which is like Chase Private Client, which you have to have, I think, like $200,000 like in your account or something like that, to open the account. And this is the gateway to like their higher ticket bank accounts that they have for people that have like $30 million net worth. And so I just opened the account, and I just did the application. I just put like $100 in the account for now, and I got the debit card for it. So I just put the debit card, on top of like the stacks of cash, or I carry it around in my wallet to remind me as a physical symbol. Like I already have the bank account with the money sitting in it, or if you're going to give your family checks, like take it a step further, like order the checkbooks and write the checks, right? Like as if you're about to give it to them. If you're going to go
Yes.
traveling somewhere, it's like, get very clear on what is your travel itinerary. Like chances are that for most people, right, chances are that you're not just going to get on a flight and then just go somewhere, figure that out at the airport, right? Unless you're really doing that, then you can do that too. But for most people, it's like you would have a sense of, I know where I'm going to go. I know what airport I'm flying out of and where I'm going to go. So it's like, make your travel itinerary. You know what I mean? It's like, for us, like I plan on us traveling like 6 months full time, starting like next month. And so I have a travel itinerary of, these are all the places that we're going to go, and these are the things that we're going to do in every single city, and start to like feel that, because just doing that puts you in the energy of it and the momentum of it. And I feel like the universe starts to meet you when you're taking these steps, right? Like, and this is what I interpret when Joe says like act as it, right? Because for
Yeah.
me, for me personally right now, I'm like, I could create, a business. I could do these matter to matter things to create money, but I want to really experiment much further for myself at this current state and draw like the largest sum of money that I have to me. And so I'm doing these things that are aligned with what I would truly do if I got the money. Like, we plan on building a house for ourselves, either buying an existing house or finding a lot and building a custom house. So I've started to go around this area or this neighborhood where we really like, to find model homes, and I've toured the model homes so that I get a sense of, in each home, this is what I like, this is what I don't like. So if we build a
Yeah.
custom house, I'm like, here's the picture from this one house that I modeled. That's the yoga room I want you to design. Here's a picture of the balcony. Here's a picture of the backyard. Here's a picture of the kitchen. So it's like, because I've already toured the model homes, or like if you want to buy a lot of land, it's like, go start looking for the lots of land. You know what I mean? So like, start doing these things that put you in the momentum of what you really want, instead of being like, I'm going to wait for the money and then I'm going to
Yes.
do it. Start putting yourself in the action of doing it. I'm not saying go and start spending that amount of money. You know what I mean? Don't spend
Yeah.
money that you don't have, but there's things that you can do that don't cost money, that are relevant to what you want. Like, even before like we had any money, really, before I even manifested any money, I remember that I wanted I was really into luxury purses, like Chanel purses and all that stuff. And a lot of times when I would go to the mall, and you go to those, there's always a designer part of the mall that you see with those like Louis Vuitton and Hermes and Chanel and all those kind of stores. And I think most people, just by default, you kind of walk by it because you're like, I don't have the money.
Yeah.
Why would I even go in the store? Right. So it's like, and I started, and it's uncomfortable when you start to challenge yourself to be like, I'm going to go walk in the store. Right. Because your body's like, what are you doing? Like, you don't have the money. Right. You start to feel that. But I started walking into the stores, and sometimes I would just walk into the store and I would walk right back out and be like, oh my God, that was so scary. And then other times I would, challenge myself to walk in the store and ask to see a certain purse on display. And the whole time there's stories going on in my mind, right? But I'm just like, I'm overcoming every single part of that to be like, no, I am worthy of being here. I do have enough money to afford a $10,000-$20,000 purse. You know what I mean? And then other times I would try on the purse, and I would pretend in my head to tell the sales associate, like, I'll take 5 of these, like ship them to my house. And so I think those kinds of things really, in the beginning, when you put yourself in uncomfortable environments that are associated with wealth and what you really desire, like we have golf clubs here and country clubs, and there's like, we live in Sarasota, which is a very wealthy, like abundant area for elderly people, for older people. There's a lot of retirement communities here. So they have lots of really nice golf clubs, and a lot of the communities, the country club communities, are like $100,000 a year just for like a membership. And so sometimes during like the lunch period, they'll let people from outside come into the country club to have lunch there. You don't need a membership. So I started to just, in the beginning, it feels uncomfortable at every single level, to put yourself in those types of scenarios or
Mm.
situations or environments. But I would push myself to do it in the beginning, and push myself to feel like, in the first couple of times I did feel out of place, right? Going to the nice stores, the nice environments, the dealerships of sports cars, the country clubs, like, you feel out of place going there because it triggers something within you of like, I don't have, right, what I want to belong in these types of places or circles. But do it enough times, and you will raise your energy feeling like you belong there. Practice it enough times and it will become normal to you. And then when you do manifest the money or the abundance, it's like, you can get the membership or the purse or whatever if you still care about it, right? Go for it. But for me, what I notice is like sometimes it's like, even when I have the money to afford it, when it does materialize, I'm like, oh, I don't even care about it anymore. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
but you've normalized being in those environments now because you've practiced it beforehand. And then you can decide if you actually want to spend your money on that or not. Or maybe you're just like, now there's a next level that I'd rather put myself in
Yeah.
uncomfortable situations in. You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah, that's
so I would encourage
awesome.
for everybody here who's creating wealth or abundance to start doing things like that. So and make it fun for yourself. Like everything that I do, like writing the checks, the debit card, the stacks of cash, like the fake Louis bag, like it's fun. It was fun for us to do these things, and they came from a place of inspired action. And so I would make it fun for yourself, and just put yourself in that energy and act as if it's already yours. In addition to the pictures and doing the stickers, to see yourself in that life already, as well as think up for brainwashing and hypnotizing yourself with your own voice to your new life thoughts.
Wow. Thank you so much, Punya. This is that was so genius. Like, I remember when you first texted in the youth chat and like giving all your hints and like just like tips that you were using. I was in Geneva, so I'm currently living in Switzerland. And I was in Geneva, and there was a shop which was having a lot of luxurious goods like um, jewelry, like brands that I've never heard of, but they were looking really expensive. I think it was like Fendi, Gucci. I don't know even how they all are called. All of like there's no
High-end
there's
brands,
no
yeah.
there's no seating here. Like prices just like go up and up and up. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do what Punya has recommended. So I did that. I went in there and I was just looking at the jewelry and I got a little bit not advertisement, uh she was just telling me some more information about the jewelry and everything, and I was just looking at it and then, oh yeah, I would like to have something for my uncle and for my dad. Do you have something in a different style? Like,
Yeah,
thank you very much. Then walking
love
away like,
it. I
don't
love
ask
it.
me to buy it now.
Yeah, like, just put yourself in that abundant situation, and it's like the first few times will always be uncomfortable, but then because it's like in the beginning, it's like I would walk in and I'd be like, oh my God, these people just totally think I'm an imposter, right? But then it's like when you really analyze it, like they're sales associates, right? Like they don't know, they're just selling somebody else's product at the end of the day. It's just our thoughts that we create associated to that, when it's like chances are these people are just like, they're making like normal salaries themselves. You know what I mean? It's just like we
Yeah.
associate a level of meaning and put them on a pedestal because they work at this designer store. But a lot of their jobs is to help service you, to give you, show you the purses and the jewelry. And that's what sales associates do. And so, just have fun with it. Like go to the jewelry stores, the Rolex stores, the Audemars Piguet stores for the guys. It's like just go into the stores and just try on this stuff as if you're going to buy it. And then it's like when they ask you, do you like it? Like be picky with it. It's like, I like this thing, but I don't like that. Do you guys have any in this type of model, right? Or something like that. And then
Yeah.
it's like if they ask you, oh, we can make a profile for you, make a profile with them, like have your information in their database, and then it's like, oh, okay, like this is nice to try on, but you know what? I'm going to do some other shopping and I'm going to think about it and maybe I'll come back and buy it, but I'll let you know. Just give me your number. It's like those are interactions that if you truly had the money, like, and you would see, like, so it's like you don't have to purchase it, you know what I mean? But it's like you can just have the experience and go there and try these things, and
Hmm.
just make it fun for yourself in the process, because the more you start to normalize some of those environments, the more when the wealth does come, like now there's like you're shortening the gap, you know what I mean, between cause and effect, because now instead of waiting for the money, like if you're here and you're like, oh, the money's over here and I'm going to do all these things after the money is there, when you start to just quantum leap and do all those things before the money comes, I feel like you're signaling to the universe, like, I already have this because I'm acting as it, I'm going and doing, some of these things that I would if I already had it. Or like, just go window shopping at certain
Yeah.
luxury stores, go to a sports car dealership, drive the sports car, tour the model homes in a community that you like, that are like multi-million dollar homes. um just do things that go to country clubs, where you can, things that you have access to, that you can do, that are fun for you. Don't try to go sneak in somewhere, obviously, where you're not supposed to. I'm not saying to break the law or do anything bad like that, but just things that are accessible to you, in the way that you like and that you want. Like, just go to high-end furniture stores, look at like $20,000 couches, I don't know, right? Like, whatever it is for you that you want. Go drive by private airports if you want to fly private, or if that's
Yeah.
something of interest to you. Like, just act as it, and just imagine those scenarios, and I feel like you put the energy out there to the universe in this present moment, like, I am worthy of this. You practice it enough times, you're going to show up, and the private airport is just going to be like no big deal to you. And for wealthy people, it is no big deal to them. It's just like, I'm flying somewhere. You know what I mean? So I think the
Yeah.
more you show up in these types of places, the more you put your energy in, like, oh, being in a Chanel store is like no big deal. Oh, like, being in an Audemars Piguet store is like no big deal. Being in a private airport is no big deal. And it's like, that's how it truly is for wealthy people. It's just not something that
Yeah.
they fantasize or put on a pedestal, because they already have it, and it really is no big deal for them. So start practicing that now.
You're not prepping yourself for the experience, then you literally have already the nearest circuits to actually be in that experience and be already prepared. I love that. I also I subscribe to like real estate, luxury real estate thing in Switzerland. Like, I was looking at houses at the lake because I want to have like direct access to the lake. I'm not sure specific to what lake yet, because there are many lakes. So close to the Alps. And I was like, yeah, I want to have direct access to the lake. And a couple of weeks ago, I was on a SUP with my friend. She has a SUP stand-up paddle, and so we were at the Sunshine Coast of Zurich, you could say, of the Zurich Lake. So it's a really beautiful, many beautiful houses. We were just looking at the house and we're like, oh yeah, I would like to have this one. Actually, no, I like this, but this one I would change. And if I would live here, like, I would make it like this. And so we were just having fun with it and dreaming with it. And it was like so cool.
I love it. I love it.
So
That's
yeah, there's
amazing.
lots of things that you can do. So, wow, thank you so much again for all these beautiful tips and tricks, and just like for sharing your story, because you've broken it down so beautifully. And so it was just ready. This meal, like your story was like a beautiful dish, and it was just like beautifully served for us just to digest and just take it all in, and just like, oh wow. I had so many light bulbs turning on, and I just loved every word you were saying. Thank you so much, Punya,
Well,
for coming up here. I loved every minute, and I'm really eager to have you back on here with even more abundance and more stories to tell. And thank you so much. So, is there any services like you would like to share, or like, is there, if people are curious about you, is there something they can find you, or is there any services that you, or like business, what you're currently doing that you want to share with
So a
people
lot
or
of
give
our
access to?
current business services are for enterprise clients. So like really big clients that are enterprises, usually global. We do project management for them. That is our current business. Full transparency, we are working to close that down and to create just for me personally, I'm working on closing that down and just creating abundance out of nowhere, so that for me, I don't ever have to work again. My partner is working on some AI. He's working on an AI automation company right now, so helps business owners use AI in a way to automate certain manual processes. He's really into AI. So those are the two things we do. If anybody is interested in that, feel free to reach out to me on Telegram. I'm in the youth channel, the Telegram youth channel for Joe, and a lot of the communities that Joe Dispenza communities. So feel free to reach out on there if anything is of interest. I'm in some of the Divine Feminine groups. We don't actually have any official websites. I've
Okay.
never I've never done that. We've always gotten clients like referrals or through word of mouth. So I don't have a website that anybody can go on to, and I really am not active on social media. So Telegram is probably the best way to reach me. If anybody
Amazing.
wants to be in touch.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much. I hope you have a no, I know you're gonna have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you so much. I cannot express it enough how much I enjoyed this conversation, and I'm so eager to put this online, and I'm so grateful for you having you here, and just thank you so much for everything, for every word, for your presence, for your being. It was just like it was just so delightful.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun and such a pleasure to be a part of. And I'm so excited to see the abundance that the youth community gets to create. And I'm just really excited to see what, we as a community of youth can create in our lifetimes. Like I'm 27 now. I got into this work when I was 22, and I know a lot of people who are in their early 20s, maybe even earlier, some later. So we have an amazing runway in front of us to create such amazing things. And I'm a big believer that the more abundance that we create, the more we get to spread that to the world, to the people that we love, the charities that we want to support. And so I love talking about abundance now that but I've already healed, and health is no longer a concern
Mm,
and same thing with love and relationships. Abundance has really been my focus for the last 2-3 years, and abundance in higher and greater amounts, just so we can really be the light in the world, and put our abundance to work for us across different organizations, different things that we resonate with. And so I'm really excited to see what this youth community creates over the next years to come. So thank you
me
so much for
too.
having me. It was such a pleasure.
Thank you. Well then, thank you so much for the viewers for venturing with us into the unknown, into Punya's story, and I will see you in the next adventure. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.